A man stands in the dust of a Judean courtyard. The morning sun cuts across the rough stone walls. We assume the ultimate goal of the Christian life is to work hard down here so we can rest up there. He was testing their character in the miniature so he could trust them with the massive. The second servant comes forward with 5 minas. He is handed 5 cities. Same pattern. Same shocking escalation. The reward for faithful commerce is not a payout. It is a province. Jesus is telling this story just before he enters Jerusalem to die. He is preparing his followers for the age to come. He is insisting that the kingdom of heaven is not a cloud you sit on. It is a vast, resurrected world that requires capable, tested rulers. But here is where the friction hits us. When you hear the phrase, authority over 10 cities, your modern soul probably does not feel excitement. You probably feel dread, because there is a phantom haunting our generation, and it completely twists how we hear the Master's promise. You close your laptop at the end of a long Tuesday, the harsh blue light fading from the room, leaving only the smell of stale coffee and the quiet hum of the refrigerator. Your shoulders carry the physical knot of 100 minor decisions, unread emails, and the low-grade buzz of a phone that never stops demanding your attention. When you hear a phrase like authority over 10 cities, your first instinct is not awe. It is absolute dread. You do not want more responsibility. You want a nap? We project our modern, corporate burnout. We imagine eternity as a perpetual weekend. We project our modern corporate exhaustion onto the ancient text. But if you look closely at what the Master actually says, directly onto the ancient text, in our world, a promotion means longer hours. It means answering calls at the dinner table. It means the friction of managing difficult people while carrying the crushing, metric-driven weight of profit margins. We imagine ruling 10 cities in the age to come as a cosmic expansion of the middle management nightmare we are already trying to escape. But the exhaustion you feel right now is not the product of work itself. It is the product of the curse. You are operating in a broken system, pushing against the thorns and the thistles of Genesis chapter 3. You are working in a world where metal rusts, where systems decay, where bodies age, and where human selfishness turns every collaborative effort into a battle of egos. The fatigue is real, but it is not eternal. The authority Jesus is offering in the resurrection is not the burden of a bureaucratic grind. It is the joy of unhindered creation. Imagine a mind that never fogs. Imagine a body that never tires. Standing in a physical, renewed world where the soil actually cooperates with your hands. Imagine building systems of justice, art, architecture, and culture without the friction of sin, corruption, or decay. The rule Jesus promises is not a management position in a failing corporation. It is the restoration of the Edenic mandate, amplified across a redeemed cosmos. The Master's reward is not a heavier burden. It is the removal of the friction. If you are in a season where you feel like when he returns and at the pattern of how God operates throughout the entire biblical narrative, you start to see something that the traditional retirement reading completely misses, are just spinning plates, managing a household, balancing a tight budget, caring for an aging parent, or showing up to a job that feels entirely disconnected from any grand spiritual purpose. You have to realize that God is not ignoring your fatigue. He is watching how you handle the minor weights of this broken age. He is using the mundane, unseen pressures of your current life to forge structural integrity in your soul. He is preparing you for the moment the curse is finally lifted. And if you want to see exactly how this capacity is built in the dark, you do not have to guess, because the blueprint for this exact kind of promotion is hiding in plain sight, mapped out in the lives of the 2 most famous captives in the Old Testament. A young man sits in a damp Egyptian dungeon. The stone floor is cold against his skin, and the air carries the heavy, suffocating stench of forgotten men. He is a slave, falsely accused, stripped of his coat, stripped of his name, stripped of his future. But watch what he does in the dark. He does not plot a rebellion. He manages the prison. He stewards the absolute bottom of the Egyptian empire. He organizes the inmates. He listens to the anxious dreams of a baker and a cupbearer. He is faithful over a dark, miserable, obscure little jurisdiction. The real question of this parable isn't, did you work hard enough? It's this: what are you building in the dark, where no one is watching and no one cares? He spends years locked in the silence. The silence is not a punishment. It is a preparation. God is watching him handle the prison. Because God is about to hand him the empire. He manages a dungeon. So Pharaoh hands him the signet ring to manage the entire grain supply of the known world. Turn the scroll a few centuries forward, and the pattern repeats. A teenager stands in the sprawling, gold-draped courts of Babylon. The air is thick with heavy incense and the smell of roasted meat from the king's table. He is an exile, torn from Jerusalem, renamed by his captors. But watch what he does with the little things. He refuses the royal wine. He requests vegetables and water. He kneels at his window 3 times a day to pray. He is managing a dietary choice. He is managing a daily rhythm. He is faithful over the smallest, most private details of his exile. His quiet obedience is not a coping mechanism. It is a calification. God is watching him manage his plate and his window. Because God is about to hand him the ear of the most powerful monarch on the planet. He governs his own spirit. So the king installs him over the entire province of Babylon, faithful over little, set over much. When the master comes back and finds the servants who traded and multiplied his wealth, he does not offer them a golden parachute. A pit leads to a palace. A lion's den leads to a prime minister's seat. A few bags of silver led to 10 cities. This is the unbroken rhythm of the kingdom. God does not hand massive authority to the untested. He does not give crowns to people who have not learned how to carry the crushing weight of the mundane. He buries them in obscurity. He strips away the applause. He gives them a few coins, a prison cell, a quiet room, and he watches what they build. But this pattern is not just ancient history reserved for patriarchs and prophets. There is a deeply unsettling, a reason why God still insists on hiding his most capable rulers in the shadows before he hands them a crown. When engineers build a skyscraper, they do not start by reaching into the sky. They dig down. They pour thousands of tons of steel and wet concrete into a massive, jagged hole in the earth. It is a violent, chaotic space, filled with the smell of diesel exhaust and cold dirt. It is a space no one walking on the street above will ever actually see. But the height of the glass tower is entirely dictated by the depth of that dark foundation. He does not offer them a hammock in eternity or a permanent vacation. The reward for faithfulness is not rest. It is more responsibility. This is the exact physics of the kingdom of heaven. We live in a culture that worships visibility. We measure human worth by platforms, by titles, by the blinding glare of public attention. We want the authority over the 10 cities immediately. We want the bronze keys to the estate without spending the quiet, uncelebrated years sweeping the courtyard. But obscurity is not a punishment. It is an engineering requirement. When you demand a platform before you have developed the character to sustain it, you are asking for a collapse. The master in the parables understands a fundamental truth about human nature. Authority without character is simply weaponized ego. If the king hands you a province before you have learned how to govern a single silver coin, the jurisdiction will crush you, and you will inevitably crush the people inside it. This is why God is so fiercely committed to the unseen proving ground. He is deeply invested in your structural integrity. He does not care about your public resume. He cares about your capacity to hold the immense, eternal weight of true governance without breaking into pride or crumbling into despair. The quiet, repetitive, frustrating seasons of your life, the integrity in a financial spreadsheet nobody double-checks, the gentle response to an exhausted child at midnight. Jesus is not offering a bumper sticker about having a good work ethic. He is diagnosing a fundamental human misunderstanding. The quiet click of a locked door when you choose to pray instead of scroll. These are the concrete being poured into the dark. You are learning how to rule your own spirit. You are learning how to operate without the cheap fuel of human applause. The delay is not a denial. It is a structural necessity. God is actively protecting you from the weight of a jurisdiction you are not yet ready to carry. He leaves you in the silence with a few bags of silver to see what kind of ruler you are actually becoming. He wants to know if you can handle the friction of a broken world without becoming broken yourself. But the silence does not last forever. When the foundation is finally set and the master returns to evaluate the structure you built in the dark, the whole picture comes into focus. Because when you step back and look at the entire arc of this biblical narrative, a single, undeniable rhythm emerges. A man woke up in a wild garden and he received a mandate to build. A servant risked 5 bags of silver in the market, and he received the keys to an estate. A steward multiplied a single cold coin, and he received authority over 10 cities. He is telling a group of terrified disciples, just days before his own body will be nailed to Roman wood, that their current, obscure fidelity. A slave organized a damp Egyptian dungeon, and he received the signet ring to an empire. An exile guarded his prayers by a Babylonian window, and he received the ear of a king. A coward hid his talent in the cold mud, and he lost the jurisdiction he was meant to hold. A savior conquered the friction of the grave, and he returned to prepare his people to govern. Same pattern, same king. But here's the part I keep coming back to. The third servant, hands shaking, pulling that stiff, mud-stained bag from behind his back. He did not fail because he lost the money in a bad trade. He failed because he fundamentally misunderstood what he was holding. He thought the master simply wanted his property back. He did not realize the silver was just a diagnostic tool. The master was not looking for a safe deposit box. He was looking for a governor. If you are in a season where your daily life feels suffocatingly small, where you are changing diapers, is actually an interview. The mundane tasks, the unseen loyalty, the quiet obedience in a season where nobody is clapping, where nothing seems to be growing, balancing tight budgets, caring for an aging parent, or showing up to a job that seems entirely disconnected from any eternal purpose. Do not bury the silver. Do not check out. Do not assume God is ignoring you until you get a bigger platform. The mundane frustrations are not a distraction from your calling. They are the proving ground for your jurisdiction. You are not just surviving a Tuesday. You are practicing for the resurrection. You are building the structural integrity required to handle the weight of the age to come. And may the God who has never once wasted a quiet season use the friction of your current obscurity to forge something unbreakable inside of you and bring you out carrying a capacity you could not have built any other way. If this opens something up for you, subscribe. Leave a comment, even one word helps. Share this with someone who feels buried in the mundane right now. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts, and where the master feels impossibly far away. They are not the main event. They are the proving ground. And the air smells of crushed olives and damp earth. He is holding heavy linen bags. Inside is the physical weight of a lifetime of commerce, talents. The answer to why Jesus structures the reward this way changes how you view every frustrating, repetitive season of your life. To feel the weight of this shock, you have to step away from the first century. We have fundamentally misunderstood what the human creature was actually built to do, and to see why the master's promise makes perfect sense. You have to go back long before the parables, to the moment the dirt first drew breath. We are a species exhausted by the grind. You sit in morning traffic. You stare at columns on a glowing screen. You feel that dull, persistent ache in your lower back. And you dream of the day it all stops. We project that profound, modern human fatigue straight onto the ancient text. We assume heaven is a place where you finally get to sit down. But the Hebrew cosmology does not view work as an interruption to the good life. When you open the first pages of Genesis, you discover a deeply uncomfortable truth about what you are. When the text describes the environment God builds for the first humans, it is not a manicured retirement community. It is a garden, but with wild, untamed borders. The text specifically points out that rivers flow out of Eden into surrounding regions, filled with raw, unmined gold and onyx stone. The sensory reality of Eden was wild. The scent of crushed green vegetation, of silver, an absurd, staggering amount of wealth that no ordinary laborer would ever touch. He places them into the calloused hands of 3 servants. The roar of unchanneled water over rock. The rich, dark texture of unturned soil waiting to be shaped. God creates a space bursting with raw potential, and then he places his image bearers right in the middle of it. He gives them a mandate to work the ground and keep it. The original human design was not perpetual rest. It was co-creation. Humanity was built to take the raw materials of creation and organize them into beauty, structure, and flourishing. The curse of Genesis chapter 3 was never the introduction of work. The curse was the friction. It was the thorns pushing up through the dirt. It was the sweat stinging the eyes. It was the crushing frustration of a world that suddenly fights back against your hands. But the drive to build, to manage, to steward, that is the image of God embedded deep in your bones. Redemption is not an evacuation plan. It is a restoration project. If you do not grasp this ancient framework, you will completely misunderstand Jesus. You will read the New Testament and assume the goal of salvation is simply getting your spiritual ticket punched for an eternal vacation. You will read his parables about coins and talents and assume he is just testing basic morality before handing out severance packages. But Jesus is operating on an older frequency. He is not looking for obedient employees. He is looking for partners. He is looking for men and women. He gives no detailed instructions. He leaves no operations manual. He does not explain the market conditions or the expected return on investment, who have allowed the crushing, mundane responsibilities of this present darkness to forge something unbreakable inside of them. The Master wants to know who is ready to take back the Edenic mandate. And you see this collision of expectations perfectly when the Master finally comes home. Because when the sound of sandals returns to the dirt road, the accounting that takes place in that courtyard shatters everything we thought we knew about how this kingdom operates. The Master steps back into the courtyard. The dust settles around his sandals. The long gap of empty time is over. The silence is broken. The reckoning begins. The first servant steps forward. He places heavy bags on the scarred wooden table. The metal clinks against the timber. 10 talents. The sum is doubled. He started with 5. He ended with 10. The second servant steps up. He drops his own linen bags. 4 talents. The sum is doubled. He started with 2. He ended with 4. They did not bury the wealth. They did not play it safe. They risked it. They traded in the chaotic markets. They sweat in the heat of the day. They argued with merchants. They faced the friction of a broken world. And they produced a yield. Now watch the Master's reaction. He does not hand them a pension. He does not invite them to sit down in the shade. He does not tell them their working days are over. He simply turns and walks toward the gate. You can hear the sound of his leather sandals fading down the dirt road. Listen to his exact words in Matthew 25. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." He says the exact same words to the second. The reward for their risk is not a vacation. It is a promotion. Then the third servant steps forward. He reaches behind his back. He pulls out a single, dirt-stained bag. The fabric is stiff, with dried mud. His hands are shaking. He did not risk. He did not trade. He dug a hole in the cold earth and hid the silver. He protected the asset. He played it safe. He feared the Master's harshness more than he desired the Master's joy. He hands the bag across the table. The Master looks at the unmultiplied coin. He does not nod with approval. He does not commend his caution. He does not say, "At least you didn't lose it." He calls him wicked. He calls him slothful. The third servant's strategy is not prudence. It is cowardice. The Master strips the single talent from his hands. He gives it to the one holding 10. The servant who played it safe is cast out into the outer darkness. The one who risked everything is handed a greater jurisdiction. Then, silence. The uncomfortable, stretching reality of empty time. A master departs. A gap of silence follows. A return is promised. The kingdom is not a museum where we simply preserve what we were given. It is a proving ground where we multiply it. Jesus is framing the entire human experience as a test of capacity. He is watching what you do with the little things, the quiet things, the things nobody else sees. But the full weight of this scene and the reality of what awaits on the other side of this life hinges entirely on the language Jesus uses when the Master speaks to the first two men. Because when you read this in English, you see the word faithful and the phrase set over. But when you look at the Greek words Matthew actually wrote down, the Master is saying something far more dangerous. Let's go back to the exact text of Matthew chapter 25. Verse 21. Jesus is sitting on the Mount of Olives, watching the sun reflect off the massive white stones of the temple complex. Speaking to disciples who will soon be scattered and hunted, he tells them exactly what the Master will say when the reckoning is finished. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. The word your English Bible translates as faithful is the Greek pistos. It appears over 60 times in the New Testament, and we tend to read it as a synonym for just believing the right doctrines or being morally good. But in the first century commercial world, same structure, again and again in the teachings of Jesus. Most people read this story in Matthew chapter 25 and assume it is a warning about laziness. Pistos was an accounting term. It described a person who had been tested under the crushing weight of responsibility and did not break. It was the word a wealthy landowner used for a steward who could be handed the heavy bronze keys to the estate, knowing he would not steal the grain when the master was 1,000 miles away. But the detail that changes how you read this entire parable is the second phrase. I will set you over. The word Jesus uses here is the Greek verb kathistemi. It is formed by combining kata, meaning down, and histemi, meaning to stand or to set. It literally means to ordain, to install, or to designate someone with governing authority. It is not a word you use for a hired hand. It is a word you use for a governor. It is the exact same word the writer of Hebrews uses when he quotes the ancient poetry of Psalm 8, describing humanity's original purpose, in the garden. You crowned him with glory and honor and appointed him kathistemi over the works of your hands. If the weight of this linguistic connection is shifting how you see your own purpose, you're exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe. Because every week we go deeper into the text than you knew was possible. They frame it as a story of divine bookkeeping, a cosmic performance review where God tallies up how well you managed your time, your money. So the master looks at the pistos servants, the ones who bore the friction of the market, and he deploys kathistemi. He restores the mandate of Eden. He looks at their quiet, obscure management of a few bags of silver, and he realizes they have the structural integrity to hold something much heavier. The reward Jesus promises is not a permanent vacation. It is a jurisdiction. He is telling these disciples that the mundane frustrations of their current assignment are actively expanding their capacity to govern in the age to come. They are learning how to rule. And this echo does not stop in Matthew's Gospel. Because when you turn a few pages over to Luke's account of a very similar parable, Jesus removes the metaphor of talents entirely, and he tells you exactly what kind of jurisdiction you are practicing for. A nobleman stands on a stone pavement in Jericho. He is leaving for a far country. He seeks a crown. He calls 10 servants forward. He places a single piece of silver into each of their hands. A mina. It is roughly 3 months' wages. The metal is cold and heavy in their palms. The instructions are sharp and brief. Engage in business until I come. Your specific skill set, before finally letting you enter the gates of heaven to sit back and relax. The nobleman rides out. The dust settles. The servants are left in the silence. Time passes. A kingdom is secured. The nobleman returns, now wearing a crown. He summons the men back to the stone pavement. He wants to know what they built in the gap. The first servant steps up. His hands are calloused. His face is weathered from the friction of the marketplace. He holds out the silver, He multiplied the single mina by 10. He took what was small and made it substantial. Look at the king's response. He does not praise his business acumen. He does not offer a percentage of the profits. He does not hand him a larger bag of coins. He says, "Well done, good servant, because you have been faithful in a very little. You shall have authority over 10 cities." The leap in scale is absurd. A mina is a handful of coins. A city is a massive, complicated organism. A city has walls and aqueducts. It has markets and crying children. It has political disputes, courts of law, and sanitation systems. Governing one city requires immense wisdom. Governing 10 requires unimaginable capacity. The gap between the test and the reward is staggering. The test was never about the silver. It was about the steward. The king was using a handful of coins to see who could handle the weight of real governance.